President Tinubu is also not giving up on a more peaceful approach to this. Earlier on, he approved the request by a delegation of leaders of major Islamic groups in Nigeria to allow them dialogue with their colleagues in the Niger Republic on how to restore peace and democratic government in the country. The clerics who are opposed to war with the Nigerian military as threatened by ECOWAS argued that apart from the dire consequences of armed conflict, they are enjoined by their faith to seek mediation first in cases like this.
Deplored, coup d'etat in the Sahel region, and as a Democrat himself, he said he will do everything to ensure that there is democracy, justice, freedom, and peace in the sub-region. We as ulama are also committed to peace and justice.
The ulama advise Mr. President that we want peace and reconciliation. Always, if there is anything happen between you and your neighbor, the Holy Quran commands you to reconcile.
Also, as part of peace moves, the 14th Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi, has briefed Chairman of ECOWAS, President Bola Tinubu, on his intervention efforts in resolving the Niger crisis. Recall that Muhammadu Sanusi visited the presidential villa earlier following his interaction with the coup leaders in Niger, saying he was warmly welcomed in the landlocked West African country.
Yes, I came to brief him on the details of my discussion with the leaders of Niger. Interventions are ongoing, and we'll continue to do our best to bring the two parties together to improve understanding. This is a time for public diplomacy. It's not a matter that we leave to governments. All Nigerians, all Nigerians need to be involved to find a solution that works for Africa, a solution that works for Niger, that works for Nigeria, and a solution that works for humanity.
I'm joined now by publisher Inside Watch Africa, Oluwaseyi Adeyemo. Thank you for joining us on the program this hour. I believe you're following the updates from what seems a hot stance on the part of the regional bloc. ECOWAS has now directed its Committee of Chief of Defense Staff to activate ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. It goes ahead to order the deployment of ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order of the Republic of Niger. What do you make of this development? It seems your mic is mute, Mr. Adeyemo.
Oh, sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, as a Nigerian, I would have preferred that this was, dealt with without us procuring the option of going in with the military. Obviously, that will cost Nigeria money. Obviously, that is likely to cost Nigeria some soldiers, which we dearly need because we also are prosecuting, protecting Nigeria from the hands of the Boko Haram and other dangers that we're faced.
Well, we're working on that connection to be able to get more from Mr. Adeyemo. I think it's back now. Please go ahead. Okay, so we asked the question, what your thought is. Just hold on, Mr. Adeyemo, while we work on the connection with you. We seem to have troubles hearing you. But we asked the question online, particularly on Twitter, as to what Nigerians feel about which way forward as regards the intervention in Niger Republic, whether ECOWAS should go all out with force, particularly the military intervention that it's talking about, or still follow through with diplomatic action. And there are quite a number of interesting submissions on X. I understand it's X now and not Twitter, as regards what Nigerians feel about this. Let's take a few of them. What's your thought on ECOWAS' decision? Here's what our viewers are talking about. Let's begin with this one, who says, Just a minute while we fetch that. All right. This one, this is from Shogo Omoshun. He says a consultation and consolidation approach should be employed before any form of confrontation. I strongly believe through some strategic and effective engagement, the military can hand over power. However, every measure must be applied, but war is not the solution. MS Mohammed says, I believe through dialogue, there should be a resolution at the end of discussion. However, if it fails, military intervention, then it's a good option too. For Madoti, military intervention is never an option. If they're ready to dialogue, that will be the very best. But if they insist on the coup, then I think the military intervention will be the best. We can't allow democracy to be buried in Niger. Midday says Niger is like every family last born. After doing the wrong thing, they start crying to any little correction. ECOWAS, according to him, is the one correcting Niger. Those other African countries supporting self-aspirants. Is coup a good thing for our democracy? It returns the question to us. Norin at I am Shaki Zaki simply says, dialogue, please. And then Isa Ojibara says, military intervention is not an option. We should not be another Western puppet or puppet. Again, most of the northern states have affinity with Niger. A war in that country could be termed a war with the North. Dialogue, it says, is the best. Let's get back to Mr. Adeyemo. So we've seen envoys from Nigeria, from the AU, ECOWAS, US, and even, I think, the UN that couldn't meet the coup leader in their attempt to negotiate. But yesterday we saw former Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, welcomed warmly by the Junta leader himself. What does this mean for diplomatic efforts in that region?
That we need to continue to try as much as we can. You see, truth between you and I, Nifemi, I've said this several times that ECOWAS need to buckle up and take his position as the police for the region. But as much as possible, anywhere in the world, diplomacy is always the first option. And that's why America, as strong, as big as they are, up till now, they've not outrightly said that this is a coup. Because then they are looking at cost, they're looking at all options. That is usually the best way to go about things like this. Like I said, yes, ECOWAS must take its place as the police and make sure that we have peace. We can afford, because if this goes through, it means we now have 4 of the 8 francophone countries in ECOWAS, being led by a military junta. We can't have that. That is not something we can encourage. But again, as much as we can, we are open. I mean, I'm open. I'm one of those who believe that if we continue to stifle and continue to apply all the sanctions that we're applying, there's no way they will be able to withstand them, because it is clear that they're a very poor country and they need, we all know that majority of how they fund their country is from aids from America, from all over the place. Nigeria provides 70% of their electricity and all of that. And if all of this is being taken away, whatever support they have now is naturally going to collapse going forward. So I'm still hoping and believing that at the end of the day, all of this will be able to achieve that result, and the standby military option that we have taken right now will not be fully activated at the end of the day before we're able to restore, all of this back to normalcy.
So some leaders of major Islamic groups in Nigeria also met with the president yesterday, asking to join the negotiation. Some have wondered how effective interventions of this kind are or will be in matters, in cases like this. But then, as we speak, the junta is busy forming a new government back in Niger. It has appointed a prime minister who used to be a representative of the AFDP. They just recently inaugurated 21 new ministers. It seems the coup leader isn't bulging.
No, so again, it's not the fact that they're not bulging. It's the fact that they've gotten to a point right now where people describe as a point of no return. Are they going to go back and be arrested? Are they going to go back and be tried? So they would keep trying as a group. But we're talking about the people of Niger. The moment this bites harder, the people themselves are the ones who are going to turn against them. Because what the people are expecting is that in some way they are savior from a government that was unable to provide them security, from a government that was unable to provide them good economy. So in their mind, this ones, like we've always had in the whole of Africa, these guys in the uniform will come, and all of us would rejoice because we feel that they're likely to provide us with better governance. But history has shown that they never do. So this is happening again, and because they are human beings and have taken these steps, it is only natural that they will do everything within their power to sort of give the impression that they would not take a back step. They are going to go on and do this all the way. But it is obvious that they don't have the strength to do this, because in the same vein, they're having to deal with Al-Qaeda, all of the threats that is coming from everywhere. The same military and the rest of them, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, they also have that problem, incursion from all over the place. So whatever army they have been divided into two. Even ours have been divided into two as well, because right now there's some people who are on 24 hours,
All right.
surveillance and fighting against, Boko Haram and the rest of it as well.
So we do not know for sure if the junta in Niger has an overwhelming support, but we've seen a substantial support from citizens in that country. What happens back in Nigeria? Because, the president keeps saying this is an ECOWAS decision and not a President Tinubu's decision. But Nigerians also have a mind of their own. There are 6 states in Nigeria already affected, the economic burden of shutting down the borders. There's what Nigerians think the president should do otherwise. How do you think all of these local interests will play out?
Again, those local interests are legitimate interests. Truth is, like, we are brothers and sisters to Republic of Benin and all the countries we're bothered with. We have very strong ties with them. So naturally, some people are going to be directly affected. Their uncle, their aunt, their wives, their family, in-laws, and all of that. This is going to affect them. Business for those who do business along the border area. And a lot of very, long historical tide is going to be broken because of this. And so that naturally will affect, and people would, but yes, you will always have a leader. The leader must provide leadership and must be able to convince the people that the decisions they're taking are the best for everyone. Okay. And at the end of the day, all of this is to make sure that whatever decision is taken is the best decision for everyone, Nigerians, and the whole of Africa.
Publisher Inside Watch Africa, Oluwaseyi Adeyemo, thank you for your thoughts on the program this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's take a few more from the comments of our viewers on Twitter. Isa Ojibara says military intervention isn't an option. We should not be another Western puppet. For Moshood Okwonla, dialogue first. And if it fails, military action should follow. Democracy shouldn't be truncated anywhere in Africa. Osita Chibuke says military government is a form of government. It's even better than so-called democracy for some people. Nigeria did better in almost all economic indicators during military governments than what he calls the so-called democracy. Niger people should be allowed to choose between democracy and military. Unfortunately, there was no referendum to tell whether the Niger people wanted the military intrusion or not. Keshinro Olatunji says, I believe ECOWAS honor the leadership of President Tinubu as chair, should continue to dialogue with the Niger coup leaders to find a lasting truce. Hopefully, this will be a wake-up call for the rest of ECOWAS member countries on the importance of good governance. And then finally, Fowoba says the best way to resolve the coup situation in Niger is to engage in a peaceful dialogue between the coup leaders, government, the opposition, civil society, and other stakeholders with the mediation of ECOWAS and the AU. The dialogue should aim to establish a clear roadmap. It goes on to say a clear roadmap for a swift and credible transition to civilian rule with guarantees for the safety and rights of all parties involved. Well, that's our program today. Don't forget the conversation continues online. Remember to use the hashtag #first100days. You can watch a repeat broadcast of this program at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Stay with us.